how they are active already today and preparing for the big wave to come. That's still a few years ahead. And very important, and I'm very happy to have him with us, is Guido Agostinelli from the IFC of the World Bank Group. He will talk about the sustainability requirements for solar financing. IFC is investing in solar projects, in solar companies, and they look very clearly at ESG before they invest and offer their loans. We will then try to reflect on what we've learned and have three of the speakers on our panel. And there we will simply try to discuss what's the status and outlook for ESG in this times of overcapacities, record low prices, and changing regulatory environments. So that was today in a nutshell, and I would like to hand over to the first speaker, and I'm very happy to have with us today Jochen Hauff, founder of Think Resiliency, and a long-term friend. We've been working together for ages, if I might say so. Jochen, the floor is yours.
Great, Micha. Thank you so much for the invite, and also for addressing this topic in these days. Where it's been a bit on the back foot, and I think it's important to take stock and to see where we're at and where this is going. So happy to contribute something. We're a little bit behind in time. I'm not known for short speeches, but I'll really try to go fast and kind of take you through a couple of thoughts that I developed, and you see from my newly thought up title as an advisory on Think Resiliency, that resiliency is on my mind. It has been for a while, and mostly it's triggered by of course climate change, but not only. I think the overall uncertainty that we experience in geopolitics and the supply chain in all these areas make it a case in point to not only think about sustainability, but maybe take it a bit further. And so I asked the question: is resiliency the new sustainability? Often it's used because sustainability has become a no-go word, right, in certain policy circles. So people resort to something else. So is it just the same, just reworded? Is it a new thing? Is it an addition? That's what I try to shed some light on. But I also obviously want to put this in the context of really what's going on, and also give you some of the examples that I think are a potential answer and a solution to that uncertainty. I should be presenting to you this now in a hopefully full screen mode. Yes, do you see it? Any thumbs up, Micha?
Yes, perfect.
Good. All right. So at the very core of the meta picture, it's the first lecture or the first presentation. So allow me to start with a big picture. Food, water, energy nexus is known to many, especially from the development discussion. But I think it's a universal concept that also affects us in industrialized country very much. These are the basic needs in a way, and they are all under pressure from the triple planetary crisis: climate, pollution, biodiversity, and of course, and we all experience that political stability is increasingly endangered, partly because prosperity and the hope to become prosperous is under pressure for large parts of the populations, not for all. And ultimately peace is shaky and is somewhere not existent, and in places that we see like Ukraine, but the Middle East, where we see outbursts of that violence, of war, that we wouldn't have imagined 20, 30 years ago with the peace dividend. So geopolitical tensions, populism, misinformation, all that is connected, and it does have an interdependency, obviously, with these basic needs of people that are somewhere not there or are under pressure, and then spill over also into the societal system. So this is the this is the big picture summarized state of the world. And that obviously threatens the ROIC, the investment returns of existing assets, and it makes it difficult to deploy new funds or for new projects. And put some pictures on top of the framework here. We've all seen what happened in Valencia just last week. We could have the same pictures from Bulgaria. Yeah, we have turmoils and war, and we have J.D. Vance here basically at the Munich Security Conference breaking up with Europe. That's how I interpreted this. So we really have a very broad base of risks that we have to to tackle in some way. And the climate topic sometimes is now, seen as maybe not as important anymore, given all the other things. But so rather than me, who's been in climate protection for 30 years, telling you it's still important, let's me quote two very senior people from the finance sector, Sabine Mauderer, who is a first deputy governor of the German Bundesbank, our central bank, and she's also coordinator of a group of central banks, 166 central banks, and Günther Thallinger, who is a board member of Allianz, largest insurance company, and in charge of investment and sustainability there. And Frau Mauderer, she said, in looking at scenarios, what will happen from a central bank perspective until 2030. So that's now, right? And they concluded that only the disaster and policy stagnation scenario is the realistic one that they should put at the basis of their expectation in the next 5 years. And they already see that inflation is driven also by climate risk and what's happening. And Günther Thallinger is going even further. He concluded in May in a LinkedIn post everybody can read in a 2-pager that the financial sector as we know it ceases to function, and I quote, with it, capitalism as we know it ceases to be viable. That's pretty strong coming from a board member on the highest level of Allianz. There's more to this. In the interest of time, look it up. I really recommend it. March 25, LinkedIn, Günther Thallinger, Google it and read it. What follows, and I put this in the case of investment, I think in the solar space, we're all in a way selling a business case and an investment case, either big projects, but also private projects. So that's why this is for me the right angle. And for me, then resiliency is a bit more than often it's seen as a risk response and a risk mitigation thing. But I would like to just show you this little picture here. Very simple. Sorry for the basic scribble here, but it expresses how I think about it. Yeah, and it's first about the impact, the thing that goes down, and that we obviously need to understand and quantify. Then we need to manage, mitigate risks, come back to somehow the zero line, ideally, right? That would be a fully successful risk management approach where we were resilient in coming back to where we were before. But in my view and my interpretation of the word resiliency, it's also about identifying and investing in the opportunities that uncertainty always brings. So if we do resiliency right and we really get it integrated in our mindset and our processes, there might be an opportunity to become better than before, right? And respond better to crisis and to uncertainty is a key winning factor going forward, because, and that's my fundamental belief, the uncertainties I've shown you before are persistent. It's not that we can just wait it out and think it will just go back to normal. The likelihood that it's getting worse is higher than it's getting better. Yeah, that's despite the hopeful signs from the Middle East today. Unfortunately, if I look at the overall picture, my somewhat pessimistic prognosis, and I'm not a pessimist. Now come to the solar sector, right? And here too, we have risks and opportunities, and we have them on the supply chain and the security of our supply and of our operations, and often resilience is seen only in that context. For me, both areas are important. Also, the topic of climate resilience and adaptation to climate change, and then there are risks, and then there are, as I just claimed, some opportunities. On the risk side, it's fairly clear the dependency of the solar supply chain here in Europe, for example, on single producing countries, more or less, is obviously a risk, right? So are tariffs and sanctions and all these reactions to that dependency, partly, right? We are all under risk, and as the drone overflights over airports and installations show, of sabotage, of cyber attacks, and we have the topic of the availability of skills, but also now the freedom of movement of those skills that have helped us become successful also in the solar sector. And all of a sudden, new restrictions pop up, and populism restrains those, right? So there is a large this would be a filling conference by itself to just talk about the supply chain risks. On the climate side now, we have extreme weather events, and that obviously impact also our installations, right? The capex cost making installations maybe stronger. Invest in flood protection. Think really hard about the wind speeds that your solar plant will get exposed to. Insurance, as Mr. Tallinger pointed out, is an issue, right? If insurers make their analysis and find out that you're in a spot where likelihood is it's getting worse, also in 10 or 15 or 12 or 20 years, you might not get insurance, or it will be more expensive. And then the question is, how do the banks react to that? If your asset cannot be insured, will it still be financeable? Given today's rules, probably not, right? And then that's a real showstopper, even though no weather event has yet hit your installation, but just some model says that it's increasingly likely. So this is where insurance and finance brings forward the climate risk into today's asset valuations. OPEX, if it's super hot and many more days, then you will have some HSE consequences. They're probably manageable, but need to be considered. The long-term asset value might become an issue. And then there will be regulation, also an adaptation coming. The EU is working on it. Germany, not so much yet, but that will come as soon as the impacts are more strongly felt. On the opportunity side, of course, the whole uncertainty means that there is more demand for distributed power. The Ukraine war has shown this. It has given us an opportunity, also in Europe, also in Germany, with a surge in demand in early in 22. So there are some aspects where solar can benefit actually from this uncertainty, but of course, that's sometimes short-lived and sometimes outcompeted by the other topics. I'm not talking now the topic of circularity and other things I will get into more, but what I really want to focus on are the opportunities. To be optimistic here, we have increases in irradiation in some localities. We also have decreases and more cloud cover in others. So that's not a positive everywhere, but it can be positive for some, also retroactively. Yeah, we have the demand for the distributed infrastructure. We can also, from the power demand side, irrigation, air conditioning, all these topics, we can collaborate, and that's what I'm going to focus on in the next couple minutes on value networks, and I will explain those in a second. And there are also new financing vehicles coming online for adaptation. So there are not only the decarbonization narrative, but there is also now an adaptation and resilience narrative that also can trigger public support. It can also trigger concessionary finance, and is something the solar sector can look at. Now, in this framework that I introduced before, what are some of the examples where I see what I call value networks rather than value chains, because I think they are broader, and that's the characteristic that would help actually stabilize both of these nexi here. And one of them is the nexus of regenerative agriculture, food production, robotics, agrivoltaics, desalination, all these things that help food production basically make water available, but also provide partial shading, help farmers have a sustainable income, and help them transition to more resilient forms of agriculture, such as regenerative agriculture. That's something I've been deep diving on quite a bit. If you follow my LinkedIn posts, you will see many pictures from farms around Europe, popping up there, because I really try to develop this because it's just so hopeful and so positive, right? The same works with forestry, more on the wind side. I'll skip that. There's green real estate, urban and infrastructure, air conditioning, and of course rooftop and building integrated PV as a field where the value of PV is not only the electricity produced, it's not only carbon-free electricity, it's also the shading, the cooling, the making buildings more valuable, the asset value increases that are triggered by combinations. And that's where I think we need to think a bit more broad in our business cases, in our benefit cases, price that in and invest in a broader set. Yeah, nature positive, resilient energy, transport infrastructure is a trend. Data centers, obviously huge power demand, and they all want least cost PV power. I just last week was with a energy manager for Microsoft, again confirming that yes, there's talk about nuclear, yes, there's all of this, and yes, this is going to happen because some billionaires decide to put their money on it. But the mainstay for data centers going forward is going to be wind and solar. That's it. And then there are some other options that might come online later on in certain geographies, but clearly 80% of what will be built here will be powered by least cost renewables, and PV and wind are the two, and battery will help buffer it. But then the data centers, if they're intelligent, they can buffer quite a bit themselves. So that's going to be also an enabler to actually deal with the fluctuations, is also how to manage data centers and their demand. Circularity of material production, given that we're also looking at manufacturing, of course, recycling of materials is only the very last thing that we should do. There's many other things. I'll get into that in a second, but it's clearly an opportunity if we put more emphasis on that, also in that uncertainty. And then there are enablers like data quality, transparency, to quantify that risk and quantify not only the risk but also the opportunity, yeah, to appease or win the trust of financiers and insurance companies again. Say, look, we have this covered, we're monitoring it, here's the data we can show for it, and also the societal dialogue that we always need to get our investments permitted. So that's a lot, right? I don't know, I don't see the chat right now. I guess I'll get to that later. The short message is there will be rewards for leaving your silo, i.e. not only look at one thing, look at other things, and stacked revenue is one aspect. Valley thinking, looking left and right of your project is the other. Just some illustrations, stacked revenue, an agricultural case here, the top one, top left, just a regenerative farmer and 50% agri subsidy support, yeah, and then plugging in a solar system actually helps lift him, in this case it's a him, over the red line permanently, right? And the same thing can work in a value stack where maybe somebody like a former solar developer who turned rewilder, and some of you might know whom I'm talking about and whom I visited here in Scotland. Yeah, if they only bid on biodiversity certificates to make rewilding work, well, my argument would be plug in a bit of solar there and bring your business case up, and maybe not only rely on new regulatory environments for biodiversity certificates or carbon trading and so on, right? So these are ways, in this case now two rural cases, how solar can obviously help. We have done the numbers, crunched them. This is available. The one here, both reports, but the one in the middle here, how agri-PV can boost the transition to regenerative agriculture, is available online, done with the Boston Consulting Group. I initiated it, and my team from BayWa has helped greatly. And so this is my leave behind on the BayWa side. A quantified analysis of the business case of how agri-PV and regenerative agriculture can increase farmer income very significantly, right? There's, of course, already not only models, there's real life examples. Some of them are more research and study stage. Some of them have been built in times where feed-in tariffs were high, and we wouldn't be able to build them like that again. And others, like the vertical ones, but also single axis trackers, are already now hitting the auctions and making progress in many geographies across the world that you really use this dual benefit of also enhancing the resilience of food production, in addition to having a value stream for the farmer and a power output. In a more urban environment, yeah, you see the rooftop and green rooftop biosolar applications top left, right, or the direct linkage of solar and air conditioning, right? Of course, you can just say, okay, there's more power in the grid and there's more, and I need more power, and then somehow, hopefully through the electricity tariffs, it pans out. But you can also link these directly because of the confluence of when you need it. You see solar rooftop charger stations here by EnBW. Groenleven built carports just to provide shading as well at airports and so on. There's a solar-powered bus stop here that has then lighting and a battery integrated in these benches, and in the evening is nicely lit and vertical and other things. Actually, solar absorbs energy in a way and helps also to keep the city somewhat cooler, and certainly powers the power needs for inside cooling. Circularity is just much more than module recycling. So here we have opportunities, and usually it starts with the design for circularity on the module and the BOS side. So having the end in mind, thinking of the reusability, the longevity, and then also ultimately the recyclability as a last resort is a very important topic. And then in the manufacturer, using as many of those reused or refurbished or recycled materials, again, to bring the overall footprint low, deliver it, install it in a way where the packaging material is not just a big heap of trash, but hopefully can be reused, can be at least recycled, but again, rather reused or avoided, ideally, right, and operate for maximum longevity of the asset. That's something I think everybody does anyways in a way, but maybe some people can get even better at it, and then the repowering or reuse, revamping of PV plants while reusing the existing structures obviously are other examples where all this is improving and is stabilizing the solar business case if we do it right as a sector. Now, moving in towards the end of this, the narrative, right? We were in a green narrative for our planet. That was the motto of BayWa still, I think. We frequently quoted the need to think of our kids, our children, which, I'm the father of two, and I fully agree with that. However, I increasingly say, hey, what about myself? Yeah, I see these impacts coming much faster than maybe they felt like 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I started in this topic. And this is no longer only about our children. This is, if you are in your early 50s like myself, this is very much about our retirement. And that is where the impacts are felt, and deferring it to some future, decarbonized by 2050, reaching some future target for children or even grandchildren, some people quote. It's just giving the wrong message, because the message has to be, we need to protect land, lives, and livelihoods here and now. That's what we're facing. That's what the double nexus that I pointed out at the beginning is telling us. The political window to do something about these topics is about to close. This is, if we logically draw the line of where the developments of the last 2, 3, 4 years is leading us, and not only the look over from Europe to the United States and say, oh yeah, what a president, but no, look left and right in Europe, you'll have the same tendencies, and we have an overall political crisis in the making. So how long we can still work in a democratic and legally more or less reliable surrounding is dubitable. We don't know. Yeah, so we know we have to move fast. We know we have to do everything to stabilize that system the way it is and protect it. And for that, we need to tell the people what it's in it for them and how this impacts their lives now. Yeah, and in the rural environment, this is even more pronounced and even more important. And most of our assets in the renewable energy space, but also in grid, in batteries, in hydrogen, wherever you are happening, are being invested in, are happening in the rural areas. And so having a new narrative here, without giving up climate protection, don't get me wrong, that is still valid and still needed. But we can speak about the other things on a first item, and then do the rest as well, because they are synergistic. So coming back to the initial question, is resiliency the new sustainability? No, it's not. It's not replacing it. It's adding to it in my way, in my view. Yeah, it offers an additional lens, and it should help us, and we should take it into account, the resiliency perspective on how to design for the sustainability we want to reach. Yeah, resiliency is a mindset. It leads us to prepare the systems to react well under pressure. That could be just a reactive thing, but also to really regenerate after impact and become better, because it's continuously assuming that these uncertainties will prevail and will be there. So these systems are more responsive to it. So the resiliency angle looks more at it's testing basically the sustainable system. It's stress testing it, and it's making sure that over time and under different scenarios, it's still sustainable. That's how I would put that. If we do all that, if we reach a mindset shift, I believe there is a positive future. It can be, and I certainly want to leave you with hopeful pictures rather than a dystopia here, right? So we see movements on the peace side. We have still the European Union with all the criticism, but they are a beacon of hope in many ways, right? We have AI as a efficiency revolution that can really help in many things if used well. And we have on the food, water, energy nexus level, we have the tools at hand to supply sustainable energy with an increasingly resilient food production and protect our water resources. So with that, link up with me if you're not yet, and if you want to hear more about this, contact me anytime. Don't Google for a company called Think Resiliency, because I didn't get the website up yet, but but I'm working on it. At some point, I don't know. I'm too busy doing things like this, yeah, looking forward to questions if you have them, if time allows. Otherwise, in the panel discussion later this morning, happy to interact.
Thanks, Jochen. Great for how you set up the scene. I think we will pick that up also later on the panel. I think in respect of time, I think we continue. Nevertheless, there are some questions here from Athanasios and from Jonathan in the chat. Maybe you want to address them. We can also pick up things later in the panel. In any case, so to everyone in the audience, if you have questions, please feel free. We have the panelists here, the speakers, and they are happy to respond. So